you start navigating the Nile. How long does the actual trip take you?
It was just under 6 months, but that wasn't on the go all the time because I would do a section and then stop because this is all self-organized and, I didn't have ridiculous amounts of money to throw at it to have people organizing everything ready for me kind of thing. So do a section which might be up to a maximum of 4 weeks, but often it would be like a couple of weeks and then, okay, right, let's stop, resupply, get the team for the next bit. Right, let's go, let's execute the next bit. And then waiting, like I ended up waiting for quite a bit of time to get my visa for Sudan. There were just some issues and delays of the people also organizing it. And then it's like, well, now we're getting really close to Christmas. It's like, well, I'd rather spend Christmas in Uganda. I'd got to know people. I'd ended up spending quite a bit of time there and had friends. And it's like, well, I think I'd rather spend Christmas here. So yeah, and then when I get to Sudan, because there was so much going on, like they were trying to, the protests were happening, they were trying to overthrow the government. It was just a tricky time to try and get people's attention from an authority's perspective. They have like other priorities, right? So things like that just took a bit of time to get things going. But that was good as well, because then I got to spend time with people like the rowing and canoe club, the people I met through there. Just spent so much time with them and just ended up feeling like family with them. They were just beautiful. I got to go to someone's cousin's wedding and I got to
Oh,
experience a Sudanese
wow.
wedding, which was because people said,
Wow.
you've got to go to a Sudanese wedding, and ended up getting to go to one. And it was this amazing, amazing experience, which, it's just not your normal thing. And if it had been this all organized, right, you just go straight all the way through, I would have missed out on so much.
So you've hopped back into the water now. You're going down or up the Nile. I don't know how you would describe it, considering it's the other way. What's the next step on that trip?
So I did Sudan and then into Egypt. And then I had a local paddler, Nadim, who joined me for the stretch through Egypt. And he was amazing at dealing with the police. The police, when they kind of got, so it's mainly the water police, you've got different kind of strands. And they were just very paranoid about anything happening to me. They rely on tourism so heavily, and they've, experienced in the past where things have happened to tourists, and then the tourism has taken a big dive. And then they were really good. So they could have turned around and said no, and there's nothing I could have done about it. But Nadim was amazing at kind of getting them on side and going, okay, we want to do this. And so it would end up, we couldn't camp. After a few days, they kind of stopped us being able to camp and would tell us where we could stay. And then, gosh, I'd either be in a police car being taken to the hotel, or if I was getting a taxi, then we would have police outriders. It's like I felt kind of like traveling royalty. It's like, who is coming to get me and what kind of army have they got? It was, I felt very safe. I think for Nadim, it was very frustrating because he wasn't free to go where he wanted in his country. So it was quite frustrating for him. And I said, but from my perspective, I feel incredibly safe. On the water, we had like a little rib next to us most of the time, or some kind of vessel next to us. Yeah. I literally had armed. There was one night we wanted to sail this sandy island, and we'd had a police escort on the water with us. And we'd set up camp because the police with us had said, yeah, fine. And then they call it in and head office sort of goes, nah, you got to move on. And so then there was this standoff of just arguing backwards and forwards. Eventually the head office said, okay, fine, but we're sending armed security. So then two guys rock up, like one of them had a shotgun and the other one had some other kind of gun. So then there's four guys and me. There's four guys protecting me on this tiny sandy little island in the middle of nowhere, Egypt. It was crazy. Felt very safe. And these poor policemen who'd been on the boat for the day, like there was no intention for them of like, overnighting
Staying
somewhere.
overnight, yeah.
So they didn't really have good. So then I was just like giving them some food and trying to get them on side. And yes, breaking bread with people, it certainly did help. So we were all sitting around a little campfire and sharing some tea and biscuits and bits and pieces. It was so random. So random.
Where does the Nile end? Is it in
the Mediterranean?
Egypt?
Yeah.
Mediterranean,
yeah. In Egypt.
So that was your last, your police escort was through the last bit of the Nile.
Yeah, so Nadim didn't join me for the last stretch. So from Cairo to the end was about 250 Ks. And I set off without any Arabic, so that was always going to be quite challenging. And I was on my own to begin with, and it was like, oh, this is really exciting. And
were you kayaking at this point, not rafting?
Yeah, this is all kayaking. Yeah. So through Sudan and Egypt, it's all kayaking, which was very exciting to be back. So doing what I know and I'm comfortable with, without hippos and crocodiles, made it really exciting.
There's no crocodiles in Egypt? I thought there was.
Oh, there are some, but they're not quite so big and scary up there. I didn't see any.
Okay.
I think once you get off, yeah. I think once you get out of, once you're below the Aswan Dam, I don't know, there could be, but I certainly didn't hear of them or see them. But yeah, and then I did have a boat with me on this last stretch for a bit of it. And then I thought I was on my own, and I got a call from someone, and it was in Arizona. I don't know. And so then ended up getting Nadeem to speak to them. And he's like, no, Sarah, they're with you. Just look on the bank. There's a car there. They've just told me, though, they've been following you for ages. So they were following me. He said, just pull over here and they're going to take you to somewhere for the night. I was like, oh, okay, great, thanks. So then the next day, I just had 12Ks to do, and I don't think they did actually follow. So I had that last 12Ks to do on my own. But when I got to that last day, I woke up that morning and had a real wobble of it, just the exhaustion. And you know what it's like when you're close to the end point of something, and it's you can almost grab it, but not quite. And it feels, rather than being 12Ks, it felt more like 1200Ks that I was going to have to do. And I had a real wobble and just said, Sarah, sort yourself out. Come on, get it together. And once I got down and I saw the river, and it was all fine. And I got as close as I could. Huge surf on the Med, so I really wanted to be able to paddle out onto the Med, because I got to a point and caught it. Was like, okay, all right, this is done. And literally as soon as I'd stopped, Dave calls up. I was like, congratulations, you've done it.